Hi, Grandma here, and I'm reading The House of 60 Fathers, and at least now we know why it's called that. Tien Pao is with the American Army. He is staying in their barracks, and the 60 men that are in those barracks have all taken him under their wing. Chapter 8, The Long Day. Tien Pao sat up with a start. Where was he? Oh, yes, in the long house of the Americans with the many beds and windows. The sun was streaming through the windows. It was silent in the room. He was all alone. But where was glory of the Republic? Tien Pao lunged at the edge of the high bunk. There was nothing under the bunk. There wasn't a sound anywhere in the room. Where was glory of the Republic? Maybe the Americans had butchered him. Naked as he was, Tien Pao tumbled from the high bunk, tore through the empty room, and out the door, calling and calling glory of the Republic. Oh, there was glory of the Republic in the yard. Tien Pao went limp with relief. There he was in a tipped-over barrel in the compound, roped to the barrel. Tien Pao flew to his little pig, and since glory of the Republic couldn't get out because of the rope, the naked Tien Pao crawled into the barrel with him to hug and pet and comfort him. The enormous relief made him silly. They hadn't butchered glory of the Republic. He might have known. They'd given him a very proper barrel house with straw in it. Suddenly, the interpreter stood before the barrel. He was indignant. Now you are not to run outdoors naked. Your 60 fathers would be horrified. In America, people do not run out of doors naked, not even boys. I suppose because they have plenty of clothes. Tien Pao sat up in the barrel. Oh yes, my 60 fathers. They are like fathers to me, aren't they? Ah, but you don't know the full extent of it yet. The men of the 16th Bombardment Squadron, that's what your 60 fathers are called, last night adopted you because you helped save the Lieutenant Hamsun and have no mother or father and are lost and starved. Tien Pao looked at the man in stunned bewilderment. 60 fathers, and I'll live in the longhouse with them? But I have a father and mother. The house is called a barracks, the interpreter evaded. I don't want 60 fathers, Tien Pao exploded. I have a mother and father. Oh, I'm not ungrateful, he added hastily. But don't you understand? I have a father and mother, and I must find them, and my baby sister. I have to find them. Yes, the interpreter said uncomfortably. But where? You must face it, Tien Pao. Where in all of China? When there are thousands upon thousands of lost war children like you, I can tell you, you were extraordinarily lucky to be picked up by the Americans and now to be adopted by them. Of course, this isn't permanent, only until such time as your father and mother are found, he added weakly. The men will do all they can to help you find them, and until you will live with them. And I will tell you, he coaxed, you'll live like a prince. You should be thankful. I am thankful, Tien Pao whispered, but his lips trembled. He stared out before him. And yesterday, when I could have watched for them coming down the railroad, I fell asleep, he said aloud to himself. And when I awoke, I thought only of my hunger and went with the 2 Americans. The interpreter shrugged helplessly. You must face it. It is most unlikely. It would be the smallest chance. The railroad is but one road out of Hengyang. There are other roads, and so many homeless people, hordes of them. You shouldn't feel guilty and reproach yourself. And I have a picture here to show you of him with the barrel and the pig and the interpreter looking very stern. I knew there were other roads, Tien Pao said somberly, but I also knew if I watched from the rock, they would come around the bend of the railroad track. First my father, and a few steps behind him my mother, carrying the sister. I knew that, but I slept. Tien Pao, you are accusing yourself for nothing. All that was little more than a hopeless hope. And I'm a poor comforter, but I don't know what to say. Anyway, you shouldn't be in the barrel and you must get back to bed. The doctor ordered it. Tien Pao stubbornly shook his head. No, I'm going back to the rock. There still must be people coming. Those yesterday must have been the first ones. And the guerrilla chief told me that my father and mother would wait for me in Hang Yang until the last, so they would be among the last. And then they'd still be coming. And I believe that because I have to believe it. He grabbed Glory the Republic's rope in nervous haste. Don't you see that I must get back to watch for them? He urged. Where are all the fathers? He was behaving badly, ungratefully. Somehow he couldn't help himself. Something inside him seemed to be driving him, making him say things, pulling him back to the rock to watch. The men are at work at the airfield, or they're on a bombing run. Anyway, they won't be back until evening. The interpreter half turned at the sound of a jeep, as if hoping it might be some of the Americans to help him out of his difficult situation. It was the doctor. He came striding across the compound straight to the barrel. The interpreter stood before the officer doctor in an apologetic half bow, evidently explaining why Tien Pao stood naked in the yard instead of being in bed. Tien Pao watched the doctor anxiously. Now the doctor would order him back to bed. Well, he'd run away, back to the rock. He'd slip out of bed the moment the doctor was gone and the interpreter was busy. But where were his clothes? Where are my clothes? What did you do with them? Something inside of him seemed to be urging him to yell at that interpreter. But the doctor was talking so earnestly, and while waiting for the doctor to finish, Tien Pao evolved a shrewder plan. He wouldn't ask for his clothes. It would make them suspicious. He'd go willingly to bed. But the moment they were out of the room, he'd hunt for his clothes, and if he couldn't find them, he'd wrap himself in one of the blankets that lay folded at the foot of every bunk, free Glory of the Republic, and sneak out to the rock. Tien Pao began surreptitiously undoing the knot in Glory of the Republic's rope. The interpreter turned to him. Now listen to this. I was all wrong. The doctor thinks it would be good for you to go to the rock to watch for your parents. Now, I do not know whether I'm to tell you all this. These Americans are babying you so, but you will have to face it sooner or later, and you face so much. I think you can handle this too. Well then, the doctor thinks you are acting the way you are because as yet you can't face up to the fact that you have come to the end of the road. All these days and nights you believed you were going back to your father and mother, but now there remains but the small, forlorn hope that you may still find them by watching from the rock. But as I said before, we're in all China among the thousands. Of course it's true. There is a chance they might come down the railroad track, and while there's just a little hope, the interpreter fell silent as he poked around in his mind, trying to find the right words. I don't know whether I say the right things, he said unhappily. In the middle of the night, I woke up and lay thinking long, Tien Pao told the man gravely, and I thought all the same thoughts. They were hard thoughts to think, but I thought them through, and that is why I must go to the rock to watch for my parents, and the last refugee from Hang Yang has passed. The interpreter drew a big, relieved breath. Then, if you understand it, the doctor says he will take you out to the rock in his jeep. I'm to get your clothes and fix a small lunch so that you can stay there all day. The interpreter hurried away. Tien Pao walked up to the doctor and quietly laid his cheek against the man's hand. It had to express all his gratitude. Then he busied himself with a knot in Glory of the Republic's rope. Now, look at this, the interpreter was back. Last night while you slept, your 60 new fathers had me trot to the village that lies beyond the airfield to buy shoes and underwear for you. And look at this. They had me sit up most of the night cutting down one of their uniforms to your size. They want you to be in an American uniform, exactly like them. Tien Pao stared at it. It's too much. It's too much, he stammered brokenly. And I have been an ungrateful wretch. It is too much. But he was dithering with impatience to get into the bright, clean uniform. And when he was dressed, he looked proudly down at himself, twisted his head every which way to see every part of the smart, sharply pressed uniform. The doctor stepped back several paces to admire him properly. He threw Tien Pao a smart salute. Tien Pao laughed excitedly, but his face immediately straightened again. He looked anxiously at the doctor. I am an ungrateful wretch, he mumbled shamefacedly, but how soon can we go to the rock? Oh, you are not a wretch, the interpreter said, stepping back, proud of his handiwork. We understand. The doctor understands. And here's a picture of Tien Pao in his army uniform, saluting. So there's not much of a chance that he will find his parents. What do you think? Do you think he's going to find his parents? Well, we still have, probably about 25, 26 pages to go. So it's possible, I suppose. Anyway, see you next time. Bye-bye.